Hi YouTube, my name is Danica and today I'm doing my March wrap-up. I'm coming to you from a different location because I am pet sitting at my mom's house. I'm also trying out a new camera, so we'll see how this works. In March I read 9 books, and I'll just go straight into them. I finished off the Song of the Lioness series by Tamora, The Woman Who Rides Like a Man, and Lioness Rampant, and I already talked about this series in my February wrap-up. I loved it. I really love her writing and especially her characters, so I'm looking forward to reading a lot more of Tamora. The next book I read was The Summer I Wasn't Me by Jessica Verdi. I have a review up at the Lesbrary about this. Basically, I had some conflicting feelings about this. It was a really quick read, but I felt like the tone was a little bit strange. This is about a girl who gets sent to one of these gay conversion camps, one of those sort of pray away the gay camps. The premise is really dark, and there is a lot of dark stuff in here, but for the most part it is that light, easy read, and they kind of don't go together all the time. If you don't really know anything about gay conversion camps and you haven't heard that sort of story before, I think it's worth picking this one up. But if you are more familiar with the idea, then I think this one doesn't add a lot to the discussion. If you're looking for something that covers this subject matter in, I thought, a much more subtle and effective way, I would recommend The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. The next book I read was an audiobook, and it's Brandwashed: Tricks Companies Use to Manipulate Our Minds and Persuade Us to Buy. I was looking forward to listening to this book. I really like books like Why We Buy that look into the psychology of marketing and of advertising and shopping and things like that. I find it really fascinating. I thought this one was going to be great. It actually started off with all of these really neat kind of tidbits of different studies around marketing, and I was completely fascinated by it. But as the book went on, I disliked it more and more. I felt like the studies were not very scientific. A lot of it just seemed to rely on sexist stereotypes, things like that. Basically, I got more and more irritated by the book as I went through it, and I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next, I read Falling Into Place: An Intimate Geography of Home by Catherine Reed. This is a memoir. It's actually a collection of essays, and it's equal parts her own kind of autobiographical stories, as well as lots of talk about nature and geography. And even though usually I get really tired of descriptions of scenery, I thought these essays were really well done. They're very well written. They have a great flow to them. So I really enjoyed reading these. The next book I read was Loving Her by Anne Allen Shockley. This is a book that was originally published in the 70s, I believe, and it was the first Black lesbian novel to be published. I have a review up on the Lesbrary, as usual. Basically, I thought this was an important book, and I can understand why it has a really big place in lesbian literary history, especially Black lesbian literary history, but it does have a lot of issues. One of the biggest issues for me was that there's a couple of sex scenes between the main love interests that come off as non-consensual, and I know that that's not the intention while writing it, but it definitely reads that way, and it was really hard to be invested in this romance when there was non-consensual sex. Yeah. The next book I read was Zombies vs. Unicorns, edited by Holly Black and Justine Larbalestier, and this was awesome. I'm actually going to do, I think, a full video review because I loved this. I picked it up just for the kind of goofy premise, and it delivers, but the stories were really good. It had a lot to offer. This whole book has different short stories about zombies or unicorns, or occasionally both, and it's kind of framed as a debate between Holly and Justine about which one is better, and they argue in kind of introducing the stories about why it's a good candidate for either side. But I loved that There's all different kinds of takes on the mythology. There's killer unicorns, there's zombie love stories, and it's done really well. And the cover is so good. I definitely would recommend this one if you're at all intrigued. Next, I read Adaptation by Melinda Lowe, and this book is amazing and everyone should read it. I loved this book. Again, I have a full review at the Lesbrary, but I'm probably going to do a video review as well. I already did, I think, 2 other reviews. I just need to talk about this book. I need to convince everyone to read it because it's so good. It's so fast-paced. This is kind of a little bit sci-fi story. The book begins with Reese, the main character, at an airport when she starts to see birds falling out of the sky dead, and then reports start coming in about at least 7 planes being down because of mass bird strikes. And then coverage of these plane crashes starts to be pulled from different websites and from the news, and people start talking about government cover-ups. There's tons of panic, there's tons of conspiracy theories, and that's how the book starts, and it gets way more dramatic and tense from there. I was so tense reading this. I would finish a chapter and just like yell at the book. And after I finished the book, I actually had like an adrenaline rush for a while after. Like, I couldn't calm down from how intense this book is. I can't wait for the next book. Definitely read this one. And the last book I read this month was an audiobook, and that was The Lightning Thief by Riordan. And yes, this is the first time I've read The Lightning Thief, and I really liked it. I liked it. It's not going to be one of my favorites, I think, but I am going to continue with this series. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. And I'm really looking forward to reading The Heroes of Olympus, but I think I want to finish Percy Jackson and the Olympians first. So those were all the books I read in March. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you are wanting to. And thanks for watching. Bye!